Hi everyone. I'm Elena, 28F, and I need advice about a situation with my husband Tom, 30M, and his family. We've been married for 3 years and together for 6. When we first met, everything seemed perfect. Tom was kind, attentive, and supportive. His family appeared nice too, especially his sister Becca, 32F. I grew up in a small town with working-class parents. My dad was a factory worker, and my mom cleaned houses. They worked hard but always struggled to make ends meet. From a young age, I understood the value of money and hard work. I started babysitting at 12 and got my first official part-time job at 16, working at the local diner after school and on weekends. Despite the financial challenges, my parents always encouraged me to pursue my education. They couldn't afford to send me to a fancy college, but they supported my decision to attend community college while working full-time. It wasn't easy juggling work and studies, but I was determined to build a better life for myself. After graduating from community college, I got a job as a marketing assistant at a small local company. I worked my way up, taking on extra projects and learning everything I could about the industry. Now, 6 years later, I'm the marketing manager at a mid-sized firm in the city. I'm proud of what I've accomplished and the career I've built from scratch. Tom's background couldn't be more different from mine. He comes from a wealthy family that owns a successful chain of high-end restaurants. His parents, Karen, 58F, and Robert, 60M, started with one small restaurant and built it into an empire over the past 30 years. Tom grew up in a mansion, went to private schools, and never had to worry about money. When we met at a mutual friend's party, I was initially intimidated by Tom's background. But he was down to earth and genuinely interested in getting to know me. He said he admired my work ethic and how I'd built my career from nothing. We bonded over our shared love of cooking, though his experiences were from fancy culinary classes, while mine were from helping my mom in our tiny kitchen. For the first few years of our relationship, everything was great. Tom's family seemed to accept me, even if they sometimes made comments about my quaint upbringing. I brushed these off, thinking they were just trying to relate to me in their own way. After we got married, things started to change. The comments from Tom's family, especially his mother Karen, became more frequent and pointed. They'd say things like, "It must be nice to marry into money," or "I'm sure Elena appreciates not having to clip coupons anymore." At first, I tried to laugh it off, but it started to wear on me. Karen began criticizing my clothes, saying they looked cheap or unprofessional. She'd make a big show of giving me expensive designer items for birthdays and Christmas, then get offended when I didn't wear them to family events. I tried explaining that fancy clothes weren't practical for my job, but she'd just roll her eyes and mutter something about career girls. Tom never stood up for me during these interactions. He'd say his mom was just trying to be nice and that I should be grateful for the gifts. He started pressuring me to quit my job, saying I didn't need to work anymore. But I love my career and I'm not comfortable relying on someone else for money. Plus, I worked hard to get where I am, I'm not ready to give that up. The situation got worse when Tom's sister Becca got engaged to a man from a similar wealthy background. Karen constantly compared me to Becca's fiancé, making comments about how he fit in so well with the family. She'd pointedly ask me when I was going to start dressing more appropriately for family gatherings, like Becca's fiancé did. I tried talking to Tom about how his family's behavior was affecting me, but he always dismissed my concerns. He'd say I was being too sensitive or that I needed to try harder to fit in. It felt like he was more concerned about keeping his family happy than supporting his wife. The situation came to a head last month. Tom's family was hosting a big charity gala for their restaurant chain's 30th anniversary. Karen insisted on buying me a dress for the event. It was a designer gown that cost more than I make in a month. I felt uncomfortable, but Tom said I had to wear it to make his mom happy and to look the part of a successful restaurateur's wife. At the gala, I felt out of place. Everyone was talking about their recent vacations to exotic locations or the latest luxury cars they bought. I tried to join in conversations, but people would quickly lose interest when they realized I couldn't contribute to discussions about yacht clubs or private jets. I went to the restroom to take a breather and overheard Karen talking to her friends near the sinks. She was laughing about how she had to dress up the help to make me presentable. She said Tom could have done so much better than some girl from the trailer park and that she was embarrassed to introduce me as her daughter-in-law. She even said she was trying to convince Tom to have me sign a post-nuptial agreement to protect the family's assets. I was devastated. I'd spent years trying to fit in with Tom's family, thinking that if I just tried hard enough, they'd accept me. But hearing Karen's words made me realize that would never happen. They'd always see me as beneath them, no matter what I did. I left the bathroom and found Tom. I told him what I'd heard and said I wanted to leave. Instead of supporting me, he accused me of eavesdropping and said I must have misunderstood his mother. He insisted we stay at the gala to keep up appearances. I couldn't take it anymore. I told Tom I was leaving, with or without him. He just looked embarrassed and told me not to make a scene. I took off the expensive jewelry Karen had lent me for the event, handed it to Tom, and left. I went to stay with my best friend Jenny, 29F, who I've known since high school. She's been my rock through all of this, reminding me of who I am and where I come from. Tom didn't even try to stop me from leaving. He just looked annoyed that I was causing a disruption at his family's event. It's been a week, and I'm still at Jenny's place. Tom has called and texted, but only to tell me to come home and apologize to his family. He says I'm being selfish and immature, and that I need to learn to appreciate the life he's given me. He doesn't seem to understand or care about how hurt I am. I don't know what to do. I love Tom, or at least I thought I did. But I can't keep living like this. His family treats me like I'm beneath them, and he does nothing to stop it. In fact, he seems to agree with them most of the time. I feel like I'm losing myself trying to fit into their world. Part of me wonders if I should have seen this coming. There were small signs early in our relationship, comments about my car being a starter vehicle or surprise that I'd never been to Europe. But I was so in love that I ignored them. Now I'm wondering if that was a mistake. I'm also worried about what divorce would mean. I signed a prenuptial agreement before we got married. At the time, I didn't think much of it because I never planned on divorcing Tom. Now I'm scared about what it might mean for my financial future if I leave. Am I overreacting to all of this? Should I just accept that this is how things are going to be if I want to stay married to Tom? Or is it time to consider ending my marriage and going back to the life I had before, even if it means struggling financially again? I could really use some outside perspective on this. Update 1. Thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Your support and advice really helped me think things through. A lot has happened in the past 2 weeks, and I wanted to give you all an update. After staying at Jenny's for a few days, I decided to go back home and talk to Tom. I thought maybe if we had a real, honest conversation away from his family, we could work things out. I was wrong. When I got home, Tom acted like nothing had happened. He didn't apologize or even acknowledge the incident at the gala. Instead, he told me his parents were coming over for dinner that night and I needed to apologize to them for my rude behavior at the event. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told Tom I wasn't going to apologize for standing up for myself. That's when things got ugly. Tom started yelling, saying I was ungrateful and didn't appreciate everything his family had done for me. He brought up how they'd paid for our wedding, which I hadn't wanted to be so lavish in the first place, and how they'd helped us with the down payment on our house, which again, I had wanted to be smaller and more modest. Tom said I was lucky to be with him and that plenty of women would be thrilled to take my place. He even implied that he'd had other options but had settled for me. In that moment, I realized the Tom I fell in love with was gone. Maybe he never really existed. I told Tom I was leaving and that I wanted a divorce. He laughed and said I'd never survive without him and his family's money. He reminded me of the prenup I'd signed and said I'd be left with nothing if I left him. Then he said something that really scared me. He threatened to use his family's connections to ruin my career if I tried to leave. I packed a bag and left, going back to Jenny's place. Tom has been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between begging me to come back and threatening me if I don't. I've been looking into my legal options, but I'm worried about going up against Tom's family and their expensive lawyers. Here's where things take an unexpected turn. 2 days ago, I got a call from Becca, Tom's sister. She asked to meet me for coffee. I was hesitant, given how things had gone with Tom's family, but decided to hear her out. When we met, Becca dropped a bombshell. She told me she's been wanting to leave the family business for years but was afraid of being cut off financially. She said she couldn't stand how her parents and Tom treated me, and that it wasn't the first time they'd done something like this. According to Becca, Tom had been married before, about 5 years before he met me. His ex-wife, Lydia, also came from a working-class background. Becca said the family treated Lydia the same way they treated me, constantly putting her down and trying to change her. Tom never stood up for her either. The marriage only lasted a year before Lydia left. Becca said the family paid Lydia a lot of money to keep quiet about how they treated her. They were worried about their reputation, especially since they were in the process of expanding their restaurant chain at the time. Becca showed me documents proving all of this, including the settlement agreement with Tom's ex-wife. I was shocked. Tom had never mentioned being married before. When I asked why she was telling me all this now, Becca said she couldn't stand by and watch it happen again. She also admitted she was planning to leave the family business and wanted my help. Becca wants to start her own company, something completely different from the family business. She has an idea for a meal kit delivery service that would focus on teaching people how to cook restaurant-quality meals at home. She has the culinary skills and business ideas, but she's worried about the backlash from her family. She asked if I would consider going into business with her, saying my marketing experience would be invaluable. I don't know what to think. On one hand, I'm angry that Becca didn't speak up sooner. On the other hand, I understand how hard it can be to stand up to family, especially when there's so much money involved. And I have to admit, the idea of starting a new business is exciting. It would be a chance to use my skills and experience in a new way, and to build something of my own. I haven't given Becca an answer yet. I'm still processing everything she told me about Tom and his previous marriage. I can't believe he kept something so big from me. It makes me wonder what else he might have been hiding. I've decided to move forward with the divorce. I've contacted a lawyer and started the process. The lawyer thinks we might be able to challenge the prenup based on Tom's failure to disclose his previous marriage. Tom doesn't know about the information Becca gave me yet. Part of me wants to confront him, but my lawyer advised against it for now. I'm scared about what the future holds, but I also feel a sense of relief. I know I'm making the right decision by leaving Tom. I just don't know if I should trust Becca and consider her business proposal. What if it's some kind of trap set up by the family? On top of all this, my parents found out about what's been going on. They're furious with Tom and his family, and they want me to come back home. Part of me wants to take them up on the offer. It would be a chance to regroup and figure out my next steps. But another part of me feels like that would be moving backward. I've worked so hard to build my life and career in the city. I'm also worried about the potential fallout at work. I don't know if Tom will make good on his threats to try and ruin my career. Should I start looking for a new job just in case? Or would that make me look guilty of something? There's so much to consider, and I feel overwhelmed. What do you think, Reddit? Should I take a chance on starting a business with Becca? Or is this all too complicated and I should just make a clean break from the whole family? Should I consider moving back to my hometown or stick it out in the city? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 2. Hello again, everyone. It's been about a month since my last update, and a lot has changed. I want to thank you all again for your support and advice. It's really helped me navigate this difficult time. First, the divorce is moving forward. Tom didn't take it well when I served him with papers. He alternated between begging me to come back and threatening to ruin me financially. I'm glad I had Becca's information about his previous marriage, as it gave my lawyer some leverage. We're in the process of challenging the prenup, and my lawyer seems optimistic. Speaking of Becca, I decided to hear her out about the business proposal. We met several times to discuss her ideas, and I have to say, I was impressed. Her meal kit delivery service concept is solid, focusing on teaching people how to cook restaurant-quality meals at home. It's completely different from her family's business, and it's something I can see myself getting excited about. After a lot of consideration, I agreed to partner with Becca. We've been working on a business plan and looking for investors. It's exciting, but also scary. I know there's a risk in going into business with my soon-to-be ex-sister-in-law, but I think it's worth taking. Becca has been incredibly supportive throughout this whole process, and I feel like I can trust her. Now, here's where things get complicated. Last week, Karen, Tom's mother, found out about my partnership with Becca. She showed up at my apartment, furious. She accused me of trying to steal her daughter away from the family. Then she made a shocking offer. Karen said she'd give me $1 million if I walked away from the divorce and the business with Becca. She said she'd make sure Tom treated me better and that the family would accept me. All I had to do was convince Becca to come back to the family business and forget about our startup. I was stunned. I told Karen the first needed time to think about it. She gave me a week to decide. The money is tempting, I won't lie. It would solve a lot of my financial worries and make the divorce process easier. But I know it would mean giving up my self-respect and betraying Becca. I also can't help but wonder if this is some kind of test or trap. What if I agree and then they use it against me somehow? I wouldn't put it past them at this point. They've already shown how manipulative they can be. I haven't told Becca about Karen's offer yet. I'm afraid it might damage the trust we've been building. But I also feel guilty keeping it from her, especially since it involves her too. On top of all this, I've been dealing with some fallout at work. I don't know if Tom followed through on his threats, but I've noticed some of my coworkers treating me differently. My boss called me in for a meeting last week and asked if everything was okay at home. He mentioned that he'd heard some concerns about my personal life affecting my work. I tried to assure him that I'm handling everything professionally, but I'm worried about my job security. I've been going back and forth on what to do. The logical part of me says to reject Karen's offer and continue with my plans. But there's a small voice in my head wondering if I'm making a mistake by turning down such a large sum of money. What if the business with Becca fails? What if I can't find another job? I know I need to make a decision soon. Karen's deadline is in 2 days. I'm leaning towards rejecting the offer, but I'm scared of the potential fallout. What if they try to sabotage my partnership with Becca? What if they make the divorce even more difficult? I've also been thinking about my parents' offer to move back home. It would be a fresh start, away from all this drama. But it would also mean giving up the life and career I've built here. I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. I could really use some advice. Reddit. What would you do in my situation? Should I take the money and try to make things work with Tom and his family? Or should I stick to my guns and move forward with the divorce and the new business? And what about my parents' offer to move back home? I feel like I'm at a crossroads and every choice seems to have major consequences. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last update. I wanted to let you all know how things turned out. First, I rejected Karen's offer. It was tempting, but I knew I couldn't live with myself if I took the money. I told Becca everything, and she was grateful for my honesty. It actually strengthened our partnership and made us more determined to succeed. The divorce was finalized 3 months ago. It wasn't easy, and Tom's family tried every trick in the book to make things difficult. But thanks to the information Becca provided about Tom's previous marriage, my lawyer was able to negotiate a fair settlement. The prenup was invalidated due to Tom's failure to disclose his previous marriage, which meant I was entitled to a more equitable division of assets. As for the business with Becca, we're off to a good start. We launched our meal kit delivery service 2 months ago, and the response has been positive. We're not making millions yet, but we're growing steadily. Becca's culinary expertise combined with my marketing skills has proven to be a good match. We've even gotten some local press coverage, which has helped boost our profile. Tom's family wasn't happy about Becca leaving the family business. They've tried to pressure her into coming back, but she stood firm. I'm proud of her for standing up for herself. We've had to deal with some attempts at sabotage, negative online reviews we suspect were posted by family members, attempts to undermine our relationships with suppliers, but we're handling it. My career took a bit of a hit during all of this. I ended up leaving my job at the marketing firm. I'm not sure if it was because of Tom's threats or just the stress of everything affecting my work, but it became clear that it was time to move on. It was scary at first, but now I'm glad I did. Working on our startup full-time has been challenging but rewarding. Tom has tried to contact me a few times, usually when he's been drinking. He alternates between apologizing and blaming me for ruining his life. I've blocked his number and all his social media accounts. I'm done with that chapter of my life. I decided not to move back to my hometown. As tempting as it was to have my parents' support, I realized I didn't want to give up the life I've built here. My parents understood and have been supportive from afar. They even made a small investment in our business, which meant a lot to me. I won't pretend it's been easy. There are days when I miss the financial security of my old life, and I sometimes wonder if I made the right choice. Starting a business is stressful, and there have been times when I've wondered if we're going to make it. But then I remember how miserable I was with Tom and his family, how they made me feel, and I know I did the right thing. I'm focusing on building my new life now. The business keeps me busy, and I've started dating again, casually. I'm taking things slow and making sure to prioritize my own happiness and self-respect. I've also reconnected with some old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage, which has been great. Looking back, I can see how much I've grown through this experience. I've learned to stand up for myself, to trust my instincts, and to not let anyone make me feel less than I am. It's been a hard road, but I'm excited about what the future holds. I've also learned the importance of being true to yourself. I spent so much time trying to fit into Tom's world that I almost lost sight of who I was. Now, I'm embracing my background and the values my parents instilled in me. I'm not ashamed of where I come from anymore, it's part of what makes me who I am. Thank you all again for your support and advice throughout this journey. It really made a difference knowing I had people rooting for me, even if they were strangers on the internet. I hope my story can help others who might be in similar situations.